Billionaire fails to react until he sees his maid. What happens next shocks everyone. It was just another ordinary morning in the towering penthouse of a billionaire, a place where opulence seemed to have no limits, and the city below appeared tiny and distant. Marble floors reflected the sunlight streaming through enormous windows, and gold accents glimmered throughout the mansion, a silent reminder of wealth that could buy almost anything, but not loyalty or courage. The billionaire, seated in his expansive office, skimmed through contracts and investment reports with a detached focus, completely unaware of the chaos quietly brewing elsewhere. In the grand kitchen, a maid who had served the household faithfully for years moved with quiet precision, her hands skilled from countless hours of cooking, cleaning, and managing the other staff. She never demanded attention or praise. She simply did her work, a reliable presence in the sprawling home. Yet that morning, a sudden disturbance shattered the calm. Flames had begun flickering near the stove, small at first, but threatening to grow, and smoke started curling into the air, filling the room with a sharp, acrid scent. The maid froze only for a fraction of a second before her instincts took over. She grabbed the nearest fire extinguisher, her hands steady despite the rush of adrenaline, and quickly doused the fire before it could spread further. The smoke alarm blared loudly, sending other staff members into a panic, rushing around in confusion, unsure how to respond. From miles away in his office, the billionaire remained entirely unaware, ignoring repeated calls and messages from his team, his expression unreadable as though the incident did not even exist. What left everyone in awe, however, was not just her bravery but her composure. While others hesitated and argued over the best course of action, she moved decisively, checking corners, making sure the fire was completely out, and even rescuing a small dog trapped under a counter, lifting it carefully and carrying it to safety without a second thought. Staff watched silently, stunned by her courage and quick thinking, realizing that someone so low on the hierarchy could act with more responsibility and presence than those higher up. When news of her actions finally reached the billionaire, his first reaction was completely unexpected. He stared at his phone for a long moment, blank, unblinking, as if the words on the screen carried no meaning, no urgency, a reaction that confused and unnerved his employees. They whispered among themselves, wondering if he even cared about the danger that had nearly consumed the mansion. It wasn't until he arrived in the kitchen and saw her standing there, so calm, so composed, so completely unshaken by the fire, that he truly understood what had happened. In that instant, the billionaire's indifference melted into surprise and recognition, and for the first time he saw her not just as a maid or a worker, but as someone extraordinary, someone whose courage and quick thinking had prevented disaster and left an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. The billionaire finally made his way down to the kitchen, expecting nothing more than a minor mess and some frazzled staff. Maybe a few burnt pans and worried faces, but what he saw made him freeze in place. There she was, the maid, standing tall amidst the faint haze of smoke, wiping the last traces of soot from the counters. Her uniform smudged and her hands bearing the faint marks of the small burns she had sustained while extinguishing the fire. Yet she moved with a calm precision that seemed almost otherworldly. The staff around her looked tense, whispering hurriedly to each other, unsure how to explain the scene to their employer, but the billionaire didn't even notice them. His eyes were fixed entirely on her, as if nothing else in the room existed. He didn't speak, he didn't ask questions, he just stood there, taking in the sight of someone so composed under pressure, someone who had acted decisively when panic could have easily taken over. There was something about the way she handled everything, the fire, the smoke, the safety of everyone and everything around her, that commanded respect, an authority born not of title or position, but of courage and instinct. Slowly, he stepped closer, and with each step, the reality of what she had accomplished began to settle in. He realized that it wasn't just the kitchen she had saved. It was the possibility of disaster that she had averted with her quick thinking, the way she had protected everyone without seeking recognition or reward. And in that moment, the billionaire felt a surge of emotion that was entirely new to him. Gratitude, awe, and a deep respect for someone he had always considered beneath his notice. She, meanwhile, continued her work, moving from one task to another with quiet efficiency, entirely unaware of the impact her actions had on the man who had so far been distant, aloof, and preoccupied with his empire. She didn't look for praise. She didn't pause to allow anyone to recognize her. She simply acted because it was the right thing to do. Watching her, the billionaire knew that mere words would not suffice to convey what he felt. This was a moment that demanded action, a moment that required acknowledgement not just for appearances but to truly honor the courage and presence of mind she had displayed. And so he made a decision then and there, a choice to act, to show appreciation in a way that would leave an indelible mark, to recognize that sometimes the people we overlook, the ones we consider invisible or ordinary, can possess a strength and resolve that can teach even the wealthiest and most powerful among us a lesson in humanity, humility, and heroism. Instead of offering a simple thank you and moving on, the billionaire made a choice that would stun everyone in the mansion and change the atmosphere forever. He immediately summoned his personal assistant, speaking with a seriousness and urgency that was unusual for him, instructing them to arrange something remarkable, a gesture that would make it impossible for anyone to forget the bravery displayed in the kitchen just hours earlier. Within a short span of time, the entire staff was gathered in the grand hall, their curiosity and anxiety palpable as they whispered among themselves, trying to guess what had prompted this unexpected meeting. The billionaire stepped forward, his normally cold, distant demeanor replaced by a rare and genuine emotion that none of them had ever seen before. His eyes scanned the crowd, finally resting on the maid who had faced the fire with unwavering courage, and he began to speak, acknowledging her quick thinking, her bravery, and the calm composure that had prevented a potential disaster. Staff members exchanged astonished glances as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it directly to her. When she opened it, the contents revealed a significant bonus, a promotion, and a personal note praising not just her skill but her integrity, her dedication, and the selflessness she had shown in a moment of crisis. Gasps rippled through the hall, some filled with envy, others with admiration, while the maid, ever humble, simply nodded and accepted the recognition quietly, refusing to make a scene or draw attention to herself. The billionaire, however, was not finished. The impact of her courage inspired him to implement a broader change, and he announced that every employee in the mansion would now undergo emergency preparedness training, ensuring that no one would ever be caught off guard again, and that the safety of the mansion would never rely solely on a single individual. The energy in the hall shifted immediately. What had once been a rigid hierarchy, where distance and formality governed interactions, now transformed into a shared sense of respect, teamwork, and mutual appreciation. Employees looked at each other differently, recognizing that bravery, humility, and competence were qualities that deserved acknowledgement regardless of one's position. The maid, standing quietly yet confidently, had not only saved the mansion from potential disaster, but had also become the catalyst for a cultural shift within the household, teaching everyone present a powerful lesson about courage, leadership, and the importance of seeing and valuing the people around us. In that moment, it became clear that true influence did not always come from wealth, authority, or titles, but often from actions, character, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most, leaving a lasting impression on even the most powerful individuals. In the weeks and months that followed the kitchen incident, the maid's presence in the mansion shifted from being just a trusted employee to a symbol of courage, humility, and unwavering integrity, inspiring everyone who crossed her path. The billionaire, once distant and absorbed entirely in his own world of wealth and power, began to notice the people around him in a way he never had before. He observed the staff with fresh eyes, realizing that their dedication, skill, and loyalty were what truly kept his empire running smoothly. Every interaction, every small task he had previously ignored, now carried weight in his mind, and he found himself making genuine efforts to understand and appreciate the efforts of those he had overlooked for so long. The maid herself remained modest, never seeking praise, yet the confidence she carried quietly grew, visible in the way she moved through the halls, handled her duties, and interacted with her colleagues. Others in the mansion, inspired by her example, began treating her with a newfound respect, recognizing the calm bravery and decisive action that had prevented what could have been a catastrophic disaster. The billionaire, often reflecting on that day, realized that leadership and influence were not measured by wealth, titles, or authority alone, but by the ability to recognize and value those around you, to uplift and honor people whose actions spoke louder than words. Over time, the mansion itself changed. No longer was it simply a monument to opulence, with gilded walls and empty grandeur. It became a space where every employee, from housekeeper to chef to personal assistant, felt seen, heard, and appreciated. The maid continued her work with the same dedication, not out of expectation or reward, but because she genuinely cared for the people in the place she served. Yet her story began to circulate quietly among the staff, turning into a legend of bravery, humility, and quiet heroism. It reminded everyone that courage could emerge from the most unexpected places, and that even those at the very top, whose lives were often insulated by wealth and privilege, could be profoundly changed by witnessing selflessness and integrity firsthand. The billionaire, in particular, carried this lesson with him every day. He understood now that power without awareness or recognition of those around him was empty, and that true respect and admiration were earned not just through achievement, but through acknowledgement of the human qualities that often go unnoticed. He saw, finally, that sometimes the people you overlook, the ones who seem ordinary in the shadow of wealth and status, hold the ability to shock, inspire, and transform everything around them, leaving a lasting impact not just on individuals, but on the entire environment in which they exist. In this quiet, profound way, the mansion became more than a home of luxury. It became a testament to courage, empathy, and the unexpected ways human character can reshape even the most powerful lives.